Another day, another leak, guys. So the 2026 Corvette interior gets leaked today, or should I say spy shotted, because it was actually taken from a enthusiast with a long-range lens on his camera. So let's take a look at what the new 2026 interior is going to look like on an actual C8 Corvette. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the vlog. Thanks for pressing play. This is Horsepower Obsessed, and this is the channel where you can come to find anything and everything Corvette related, whether it is maintenance items, ownership experiences, rumors, leaks, or in this case, spy shots. If it's Corvette you want, it's Corvette you shall find right here. So today we are talking about the brand new 2026 Corvette interior. The previous video we did actually showed the illustration straight from GM's website showing that this was in fact going to be coming for a 2026. It did show the increased size of the speedometer area, the increased size and changed shape of the infotainment screen, as well as the third little screen that is kind of hanging out on the left of the speedometer area. Well, now we know what these things are going to look like in person because of these spy shots. So without further ado, here we go. So our friends over at the Mid-Engine Corvette forum and the Corvette blogger are the first ones to post these images up. And as you can see here, the very first image shows us all three screens. We have our infotainment system on the right, the speedometer in the middle, and then over on the far left, that little extra screen, which if you zoom in on, you can clearly see has our temperatures. So our oil temperature, transmission temperature, stuff like that is always going to be on that screen, it looks like, to constantly remind you where you're at, especially in track use. The center screen is obviously also a little bit different. Like I said, it is slightly larger than it has been in the past, but it's also got different coloring setups on it and stuff. It looks different than it does for the 2025s and down. Over to the right a little bit more is where things start to really get crazy, because now we have that all new infotainment screen, which is bigger, higher resolution, and shaped slightly differently than the one we have now. It's more elongated. And right down below it, we do have that HVAC vent, and below that, all of the buttons for the interior controls, such as heated and cooled seats and stuff like that. That is now removed from the center wall of buttons and replaced with a grab bar. Yeah, kind of antiseptic looking, if you ask me. It really kind of looks like this was the first rendition of the interior, and the one we have now is actually the second. I'm not a giant fan of what I'm seeing here outside of the screens. I do like the higher resolution screens and a little bit more technology on the interior. I'm a tech guy, so I appreciate that approach, but I don't know that I love that center console area. The removal of the wall of buttons is kind of a mistake in my opinion, and then the exposed cup holders, I don't know if I like those either, but I'll reserve judgment until I see it in person and actually use it. From this angle, we can't really see much else outside of that cup holder being used. Now, bear in mind, those cup holders are actually two separate sizes. One is smaller than the other. So one will look a little bit smaller, one will look a little bit bigger, which is, again, kind of lending to the weirdness of that area without being covered up. So the idea of the C8 interior currently with the cup holder cover that closes over top of it kind of makes more sense to me in this aspect. But again, I'll wait and see. So scrolling down a little bit, we also have the interior here, a little bit of a closer shot of the screens. Again, you can clearly see the screens are different. The main speedometer screen is different than anything we see currently. It's more blacked out, it looks like. Still has that RPM gauge right in the center with your miles per hour right there in the center of that. But again, a closer look over on the left of all of the gauges showing the temperatures. That's pretty cool that you can constantly have that on screen. I'm imagining you can probably cycle through a couple different options over there as well, but pretty cool to have something that's always visible. From this angle, you can see the screen is definitely bigger. We have on-display buttons as well, it looks like, so the temperature and heated and cooled seats and everything is available on the screen, as well as right down below the screen where you can see those silver buttons kind of baked into the silver trim. Now, the one thing that's kind of interesting is where the start button's at is now like indented into the leather, where it sits now is right on top of the infotainment material that kind of flowed into the screen itself. So this is definitely a different setup. Below the infotainment system, you can see the typical transmission controls, and they're not really pictured that I could find in any of these leaks, but below the transmission controls is the toggle switch for your mag ride control. Now, it's not going to be a dial anymore. Like I said, right below the transmission gear select is going to be a toggle switch that will allow you to go through the tour, track, and sport and everything like that. The dial area is replaced with a wireless charging pad, so that won't be a dial anymore. None of these pictures show that because of the angle that the person was taking these pictures from. But moving down, we have some more comparison shots here, kind of showing the new interior versus the old interior, the wall of buttons versus the removal of the wall of buttons. And while it does change it a little bit, it really doesn't change the main problem. Like, GM heard that people don't like the wall of buttons. Some people don't like the wall of buttons. And they were like, okay, let's fix this. And then they didn't really fix the main problem, which was that it was too high. It was too much of a separating problem. It wasn't the fact that the buttons were there. The buttons were fine. It was the fact that the passenger felt cut off from the driver because of how high that wall sat. Well, the grab bar that replaces the wall of buttons sits almost as high. It looks like it's slightly lower, but nothing earth-shattering here. And this redesign of this interior seems almost pointless because it doesn't seem like they really addressed the issue at hand. So this is pretty much it. These are the spy shots that we got. And like I said, other than the higher resolution screens that I personally am going to appreciate because I'm a tech guy, I don't really see a lot of changes here that were really worthwhile. I'm curious what your opinions are though, guys. Let me know in the comment section down below. Is this something that makes sense for you? Do you like the direction that GM is going with this interior, or do you wish they would have done something more or less? Let me know what you think down below, because my personal opinion is I like the current interior we have. I only wish we had a little bit of a bigger screen, maybe a little bit more resolution, and a slightly faster operating system on those infotainment systems. But other than that, I could really do without the new interior personally. I'm curious what your thoughts are. Of course, we're going to get way more leaks than this coming soon. I would imagine GM is going to start talking to us about this pretty quickly. I was really surprised to see they did not talk to us about it at the bash, because that's typically where they announce this kind of stuff. But again, I half assumed they weren't going to, just because they didn't want to try to kill 2025 model year sales. But at the same time, everybody knows that this new interior is coming, so they're waiting anyway. So anyway, that's it, guys. Those are the spy shots that were taken just, it looks like, either yesterday or today. Let me know what your thoughts are down below. Do you like it? Do you love it? Do you hate it? I'm curious. Let's engage in a conversation about it. Smash the thumbs up button if you liked the video. Subscribe if you haven't yet. And as always, guys, stay obsessed.